When Nancy learns that the Drew's housekeeper has been duped by an elegantly dressed woman into buying a stolen fur piece, the young detective starts a search for the clever swindler. To Nancy's astonishment, she discovers the woman is using the name Nancy Drew. The dishonest acts of the impostor points the finger of suspicion at Nancy herself, and it results of her being questioned by the police. Join me and Nancy as we solve the mystery and clear her name. Let's read The Mystery at the Ski Jump. Hey everyone, I am the Esperanza 2 for 3. Welcome to my channel. Today we are doing a book reading as planned. Jeez, okay. Today we are reading a Nancy Drew book called The Mystery at the Ski Jump. Yes! Oh man, I am so excited. So, if you recall from the previous video of the book reading, I am reading this in honor of my friend's father, as well as her great aunt, I think it was. Because I know for a fact that the ghostwriter of this particular book is related to her. And I know it's some form of aunt. I do not remember how far back in her family it is. But it's a great book. Before I get into it, though, I do want to talk about a few things. One, I know I have been breaking a couple of my promises as far as, like, getting videos up on time and not doing the proper videos. Because, I think either last week or the week before, it was supposed to be treadmill dancing. And I think by the time it was like a day or two, it was like a day or less than a day of Friday, and I had not chosen a song for the treadmill dancing, and I had not done any of the treadmill dancing. So, that's unfortunate. Oh man. But I really do like treadmill dancing, guys, because it's one of the few things where you can do, like, whatever you want, and you can, like, improve on your dance moves and stuff like that. I've seen other videos of treadmill dancing, and these people are amazing. I want to do that kind of stuff someday, but I don't know if that's going to happen considering all the jiggly parts I have. Yes, I am saying I am fat. I am saying I am fluffy. Which level of fluffiness am I anyways? I think it would be 2 or 3. Healthy, husky, fluffy. I'm husky. I think I'm husky. Yeah, I'm husky. Jeez, guys. Gabriel Iglesias is looking fine. He is getting thinner. I honestly preferred it when he was fluffy, but the fact that he's actually willing to lose weight is amazing. It amazes me. I love it. I actually haven't watched any of his latest stuff, so I need to check that out pretty soon. Oh, I don't know if I told this in my previous video, and so I'm going to bring it up now before I start talking about the book of what happened in the previous book reading. My mom's side of the family finally came to town. Well, I should say my uncle and aunt, my uncle and his wife, from New York came into town, and we were finally able to go to St. Louis to spread my grandma's ashes on her mother's grave. That was her last wish. That was her final wish. And we finally were able to do it. And I guess to celebrate my grandma, we ended up going to one of her favorite restaurants. We ended up going to her favorite restaurant in St. Louis. And we even visited her old house that she used to have when I was really, really young. And I actually somewhat remember the house. I even remember the smell of the basement. Ugh, disgusting. And even my sisters and I even commented about it, and Mom was saying that it was mold. Or no, not mold, mildew. Mildew. It was mildew. And I'm like, really? Oh. So that's what I'm smelling in my apartment. I'm kidding. My apartment does not smell like mildew. And if it does, it's my fault. Jeez. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into the book, shall we? Okay, so what happened in the first book reading video, we were introduced to one of Nancy's neighbors, I think, Mrs. Martin, and we learned about Mrs. Channing, who happens to be a sales representative for some sort of forest, for a company called the Forest Fur Company. And she is selling expensive furs at a really cheap price, as well as selling stock of the company's, stock, I should say. And after Nancy tells her father, he finds it really suspicious and wants her to investigate into it, even though she and her dad had planned to go to Montreal, I think it was. And that's actually where we ended. That's right, because he actually comments about their housekeeper worrying about them, because Hannah Gruen is always concerned about the Drew family. Very, very concerned, because she has this very beautiful motherly tone. At least that's what I assume. I don't know what accent she has, and the book series never really explained it. So, but we do know that River Heights is somewhere near New York, considering it's a short drive for them. Anywho, let's get back to the book, shall we? I'm excited. I think we started chapter 2. Yep. Bess Marvin telephoned. She's coming over after dinner. And George, I can never get used to a girl with a boy's name. She's coming too. Grand, said Nancy. The three of us will hold a farewell party for you, Dad. Bess and her cousin, George Fane, arrived at 8 o'clock. Clad in boots and woolen ski suits, they were in the highest spirits in spite of the cold. George, a trim, boyish-looking girl with short black hair and an independent swing to her shoulders, was the first through the door. "Hypers, isn't this storm something?" she exclaimed. "Old Man Winter is certainly doing his best to blow our town off the map." She panted. "One more big puff, and I'd probably have landed on top of church steeple." Bess giggled. "That would be something, you flapping about like a weather vane." "Bet I could point in all directions at once," George retorted. "Well, I'd rather stay inside," said Bess, blonde and pretty. You misspelled blonde. I'm going to be noticing a whole bunch of misspells and weird words. "Maybe we can make some fudge," she added hopefully. Bess loved sweets and worried little about her weight. "I'm afraid there won't be time for cooking," said Nancy. "The fact is, I have some work for both of you." "Nancy, you don't mean you're on the trail of another mystery?" George asked eagerly. "Could be," Nancy answered, her eyes twinkling. For the next few minutes, she explained to her friends about Mrs. R.I. Channing and her questionable method of selling stock and furs. "Oh, my." "I've just been examining the stock certificate she gave Mrs. Gruen," the young detective went on. "It gives the headquarters of the Forest Fur Company as Dunstan Lake, Vermont. But girls, I've looked in the atlas and there's no such place as Dunstan Lake, Vermont." "Too small, maybe?" George suggested. "Dad has a directory like those used in the post office. It's not in there either." "Well, maybe Dunstan Lake is a person." "Then it must be a phony outfit," gasped Bess. "Perhaps," agreed Nancy. "Anyway, I must find that Mrs. Channing as soon as possible. The roads are blocked by snow and she can't get far." "We'll help you search," said George eagerly. "Just give the orders." "Okay," Nancy grinned. "Suppose you two call all the garages in town and see if anyone brought in a long black car with damaged front fenders. Meanwhile, I'll use a private phone in Dad's study and call the local inns, hotels, tourist homes, and motor camps and see if a Mrs. Channing is registered." Geez, that's a long list, considering how big River Heights is. But when the girls met again 20 minutes later, all of them admitted complete failure. Because of the weather, Bess and George were sure Mrs. Channing could not have driven far. She probably had stayed with a friend. unless she registered at a hotel under another name. Mr. Drew joined them in a going away snack, then kissed Nancy goodnight. He told her he would be gone before she was awake, then asked, "What's your next move?" "To call on Ida Compton." The next morning was crisp and sunny. Giant snowplows working all night had effectively cleared the highways. At 10 o'clock, the three girls were seated in Nancy's smart little convertible, on their way to consult the nurse. Nancy pulled up at Dr. Britt's house. After hearing the story, Miss Compton was eager to cooperate. She explained that a few days previously, a tall, muscular man of about 40 and his wife had called to see the doctor. They had given their names as Mr. and Mrs. R.I. Channing. While they waited to see the doctor, the nurse expressed her admiration for the meek soul Mrs. Channing wore. To her surprise, the woman removed the scarf and offered to sell it cheap. She had also offered Miss Compton a block of Forest Fur Company stock. "Mrs. Channing doesn't miss a trick, does she?" George snorted. "Always on the lookout for clients." "Mrs. Channing seemed pleasant and honest," sighed the nurse. "Are you sure she isn't?" "Well, I haven't proved anything yet," Nancy admitted. "But Mrs. Channing's methods are very strange, and I couldn't locate Dunstan Lake. Miss Compton says she never left the office when strangers were in it, but at Mr. Channing's request, she had gone to make a cup of tea because his wife felt faint." "I'm afraid the tea business was just an excuse," Nancy said. "Those two wanted you out of here for some special reason." "But why?" The young detective's glance passed swiftly about the room and came to rest on a steel cabinet. "Of course," she exclaimed. "The Channings wanted to look into the file. They wanted names and addresses of persons they might sell to." "I guess that's true, Nancy, because as soon as Mrs. Channing drank the tea, and I handed her a check for the scarf and the stock, she said they couldn't wait to see the doctor and hurried away." That's a little fishy, don't you think?" "Miss Compton, will you do me a favor?" Nancy asked. "Call a few of the doctor's patients on the telephone right now. Ask if a Mrs. Channing, or at least a brunette woman, has called on them, offering to sell them stock and furs." She had no sooner made her request than the nurse began to dial a number. Within a few minutes, Nancy learned that several patients had made purchases from a smooth-tongued woman named Mrs. Channing. Nancy spoke to each one, but picked up no further information. "I think we had better be on our way," she said finally. "I don't want to take any more of your time, Miss Compton, but if you will continue to check on people on those files, we can stop in later for the list. Somewhere there's bound to be someone who can give us a real clue." "Where do we go from here?" George asked, as the three friends piled back into the convertible. "I don't know," said Nancy. "It's too near lunchtime to make any calls, and—" "Girls!" Nancy's voice was excited as she bent over the steering wheel and stared down the street. "There! Just across the street in that car!" she gasped. "I believe it's Mrs. Channing." As soon as the light changed, Nancy turned left to follow the black car. She trailed it down the side street a block, then onto a highway that led to open country. All at once, the girl's ears caught the warning wail of a siren. A police car drew up alongside the convertible. The driver waved Nancy to the curb. "Where do you think you're going in such a hurry?" the officer demanded. "Oh!" Nancy flushed. "I'm sorry if I was going too fast. You see, there was another car. A car we had to catch up to." The police ignored her apology. "Let's see your driver's license." "Certainly, officer." Nancy reached for the wallet in her coat pocket. She snapped open its secret flap, and suddenly her face was the picture of dismay. Her driver's license and all her other identification cards were gone. Chapter 3, Missing Diamonds. "Now, young lady, I suppose you're going to tell me you lost your driver's license?" The policeman's tone was skeptical, and his gray eyes were dubious as they met Nancy's. The man was a stranger to her, which was unusual, since Nancy knew most of the local police and all were her friends. "Oh dear, this is certainly a picklement," wailed Bess. "Now we can't catch that awful Mrs. Channing." George leaned out of the car. "Officer, this is Nancy Drew. We're after a thief. Please let us go." The policeman stared. "You're what?" Listen, miss, if that's the case, there are 2 reasons for my taking you to headquarters. Suppose you tell the chief your story. He directed Nancy to follow him, saying she was to pull no shenanigans. Chief of Police McGinnis was surprised to see Nancy. He listened while she explained her predicament of being without a license. I just can't figure out what happened to it. I know I had it in my wallet yesterday. This morning I forgot to see if it was there. I know you have a driver's license, Nancy, the chief assured her. That's why I'm going to be lenient in your case. You've helped the police department on so many occasions that it's almost as if you were a member of the force. At this remark, the policeman's jaw dropped. Oh, thank you, Chief McGinnis, said Nancy gratefully. I'll make application for a duplicate license at once. Good, the officer nodded. But remember, young lady, keep your car in storage until that new license arrives. Chief, I have a driver's license, Bess interrupted. See, it's right here in my pocketbook. I can drive Nancy's car for her. You girls, Chief McGinnis laughed. You don't miss a trick, do you? Yes, Miss Marvin, I suppose you can act as a chauffeur. And now what's this about a thief? Are you up to something we police don't know about? Nancy's eyes were teasing as she answered, I'll let you know the instant I need help. Whew, that was close, exclaimed George, as the 3 chums left the police station and hurried back to the car. I thought you were going to have to tell him about Mrs. Channing, and I knew you didn't want to yet. No, not until I have some proof she's not honest. There was a thoughtful frown between Nancy's brows. I wish I could figure out what happened to my license. You don't suppose someone stole it, do you? Bess asked as she slid in behind the steering wheel. I can't decide, Nancy admitted. In the first place, that license isn't worth anything to anybody but me. So why would it attract a thief? And why would he want my other identification cards? Maybe the thief was looking for money and took the other things by mistake, suggested George. Did you have much money in your wallet? No, just an emergency $5. $5? That's a lot. I have another purse that I carry silver and bills in. That wasn't tampered with. Well, we can put our heads together at luncheon, said Bess. You're both invited to my house, and girls, I promise chicken pie and angel cake. Luncheon was delicious, but what interested Nancy even more was a message for her from Bess's father. Hearing of the case, Mr. Marvin had telephoned his broker in New York and learned that no such organization as the Forest Fur Company was listed among legitimate stock companies. Poor Hannah Gruen, thought Nancy, deciding to redouble her efforts to find Mrs. Channing. And I think I'm gonna stop there, guys. We went through a lot there. I actually need to figure out how many pages I should be reading each video, because this is a pretty long book, and even though I do want to read as much as I can in every video, I want to make sure you guys are getting the full story without me rushing into things. So I think after this video, I will go ahead and go into details about that. Well, hang on. Let me go ahead. I'm not going to do the math now, but let me go ahead and tell you where we are in the book. So right now we are on page 20. And there are 212. That is weird printing. That is weird printing. Yeah, this has to be first edition. The printing on this is just weird. And the book has 212 pages. I don't know, does that include the table of contents and stuff? No, it does not. Okay, sweet. Because otherwise I would have to do subtraction there. That was an intense book. Jeez, okay. I am having a lot of fun, and I hope you are too. Nancy is really trying to get herself wrapped up in this mystery, huh? She's opening a huge can of worms. So, but the fact that Mrs. Channing has done this much selling and no one has bothered to research into the Forest Fur Company, I think is rather stupid. Because there had to have been other people who were curious about it. Besides Nancy and her dad. There had to be. I mean, I know if there weren't any, Nancy would have to pick it up, but I mean, if someone had to have learned about how fake Mrs. Channing is, because otherwise Nancy would have had, this book would be so much shorter. I'm overthinking this, and I'm analyzing it way too thinly and whatever. Jeez. It's so funny because, like, the more I write books, the more I realize I'm really getting into the details of things. Because, like, my latest book, I'm actually comparing my latest books to my older books, and oh my gosh, my writing style has changed so much. It has changed, seriously. Which is why I have to rewrite some of my older books, because they're terrible. They're terrible. Either the tenses are wrong, or the sentence structure is not what I'm familiar with now, or the quotes of certain characters are not what I expected or wanted or something like that. I mean, there's something's always different in my older books where I'm noticing flaws. It's so weird to be seeing that. Oh, man. Which makes me so happy that they're not published yet, because that means I can still work on them. This is what my mom kept telling me. Like, over the years, my mom keeps telling me how lucky I am my books aren't published yet, because I can still change them to whatever I want. I can still change them to make them more presentable, more beautiful, and stuff like that. It's just amazing how well I can write and still improve and make it a lot more detailed, make the character development so much better. Because, like, even reading some of my other books from, like, years ago, I'm noticing that the character development with some of the characters are just terrible. Oh, jeez. Alright, well, there's still not much progress on Ashlyn's Dream Come True, unfortunately. I do have to contact my I've gotten information from all of my beta readers except for one, which happens to be my sister. So I actually do need to remind her I do need to remind her that I need a response on that. I don't really have a deadline for myself of when I'm going to get it published, because I know I need to save money in order to get a formatter and a couple of other things. But even though I do have, like, a book cover already, it would be cool if, I think my current book cover might be wrong, because it doesn't continue on for the back of the book. So I either need to actually I do know someone who does book covers, and he is amazing. So I can either ask him to continue the work of the book cover I currently have, or I can ask him to redo the book cover for me, which would be awesome. Because, like, even though I really like the current one that I have, I don't know how it would continue on for the back of the book. So, which is unfortunate. If I do get printed books, the book cover that I have currently will not work, because there won't be anything for the back of the book. That's one thing I need to figure out then, because I need to figure out whether I want to get printed books or if I'm just going to stick to ebooks. I really don't want to do ebooks. It seems to be the only thing that will grab people's attention, because paper books, I mean, there are book stores and there are libraries, but ebooks just seems to be more popular than that, which is really unfortunate. We need to bring back printed books. Please help a library out, help a bookstore out. If they do not have certain printed books that you want, or that someone you know who wants these books, let those places know. We need to bring printed books back, please. Even though we are trying not to destroy any more of the ecosystem in the world. Alright, anyways, I'm going to bid you all adieu. So I hope you all have a great morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. I am the Esperanza 243. Signing out.